So not only is this one of the laziest ways you can make money, but you can make a lot of money in it. This business idea is not something where you will only make £1,000 or £2,000 a month. Actually, you can scale it to £15,000, £20,000 a month. But for something to be a lazy idea, for something to be where you don't need to put in a lot of effort, it needs to cover a couple of things. Now, this business model does not need any sort of investment. This business model is completely passive once it's up and running, which, by the way, should not take longer than 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how much you want to scale it. You can make a lot of money doing this business model. You can make 15, 20, 30, 40,000 pounds a month. It's all very possible depending on how much effort you put in. You do not need to be on social media making videos and dancing and asking people to sell a course. It's nothing like that. And the business model is something which is going to last a long time. In fact, we are in the early days of this business model. And for those of you that are thinking, is it a recruitment company? No, it's not a recruitment company, though I started a recruitment company when I was 25 and today I'm 32 years old and I've made a lot of money in recruitment. This business model is one of the laziest ways you can make money, and it's something I started last year, and today after a whole year we make more than 10 to 15,000 pounds a month on a passive basis. Now let me first explain why this business model is about to take off, why this business model is going to be the new thing and a lot of people are about to do it. Now you have to bear something in mind. This whole video, this whole course, I am teaching you guys exactly how to start this business model, exactly how to make money, win the clients, and do every single part of this business model, which, by the way, I've done myself and I'm experiencing it, and I'm teaching you guys. I'm teaching you for free. All I ask from you guys is like this video, share with your family and friends, take notes and watch until the end, because there's a ton of value in this video. And honestly speaking, I could have made this video a course and I could have charged £200, £300, £400, and honestly speaking 300, 400, 500 people would have bought it very easily and I could have made a lot of money. But the truth is, I want to be able to benefit you guys and I want to share this information with you guys for free. So let's get into why this business model has a huge demand, why this business model actually is going to take over. Let me explain something, and I need you guys to listen to me on this. Recently, what we have found is a lot of people are working from home. Remote working has become a thing. After COVID now, companies realize and understand that someone can work from home. Someone can carry out their work from home and do it to a good quality. And actually that has opened up many doors. So softwares where people are working from home have obviously seen an increase. Maybe stationery, furniture has seen an increase because people are now creating offices in their houses. And so a lot of industries are growing. When something changes, it means that an industry grows, right? A lot of people now have gone into remote working, and actually I would say, to be fair, a lot of companies have realized that remote working works. That's the key here. Remote working does work. And I'll tell you a story actually. I started working in recruitment. I've been working in recruitment since I was 21 years old. And at the time when I was working a job, you were never allowed to work from home. It was, something which was barbaric. If you worked from home, it meant that you weren't doing any work and you weren't working properly. And today, we find that actually recruitment companies allow working from home. It's very normal. It's actually completely normal for you to be able to work from home at least 2 or 3 days a week. So here we understand that the industry is changing, work life is changing, companies are changing and allowing people to work from home. Here is the business model. If companies are allowing you to work from home, it means that companies are also realizing the work can be done from anywhere in the world. Because if you can do the work from the UK in your house, then that means someone in Pakistan, India, Thailand, or wherever you can think of as a third world country where the salaries and wages are lower, can do that work from those countries. We are entering an era where you can make a lot of money, and an industry that is just starting, and an industry where you can practically become a multi-millionaire. And actually, it's probably one of the easiest ways you can make money. And that's exactly what I'm going to explain throughout the video in this course, on how to get clients and how to start, exactly where. But it's important for me to highlight where the potential is. And to add a little bit more meat onto the bone, if any of my viewers are from India, as someone who is from Pakistan, we obviously have a lot of similarities with India as well. I don't mean in terms of the economy, but the Indian economy has done extremely well. Anyone watching this knows the Indian economy has been doing amazing over the last 10, 15 years. And a big reason to that is they went from agriculture, to providing services. A big boom in India being able to provide services to the West, right? Recently, you may have seen where you're picking up the phone, someone from India is calling or someone from India is speaking, it's customer service guys. And this, to be fair, has been happening for the last 10 or 15 years. Having said that, it was only from an avenue of customer support, maybe dealing with queries, maybe providing some sort of technical insights into something going wrong with your internet or your Wi-Fi or something like that. But actually the scope now is massive. You can find marketing guys, you can find customer support guys, you can find sales, cold calling, business development, you can find guys in AI. The space now is massive. And I would say anyone that can do some work remotely can now do the work from Pakistan, India, Thailand, and so on and so forth, which means, by the way, billionaires were created in India when that change of agriculture to services happened, and they did amazing, by the way, and hats off, did amazing, and billionaires were created. And now that change is happening. Guys, I need you to understand that is how big this business model can genuinely be, that the change is that big. If you get in now, in 5, 10, 15 years, at least a couple of million is what you should be aiming for. And to reiterate, what's in it for the company? Well, let's go through that, because when a recession happens, when a company starts struggling, what's the first thing they do? They let go of their staff. It's the first thing. It's the first and the easiest way to cut money. That's a fact, by the way. And I've been in recruitment for 11 years. And so I know exactly how companies react when it comes to tough times and that sort of thing, right? Because actually, cutting cost on employees is one of the easiest ways to reduce your wages. I mean, think of it like this, right? If someone's getting paid £2,000 a month and they have 100 employees, 100 employees isn't actually that much, right? 100 employees in essence is a small to medium-sized company. Well, let's say a medium-sized company. But you wouldn't look at them and be like, they're a national, massive company. They're good. And there's thousands of them, to be fair. Now, one of those companies is paying £200,000 in wages every single month. And by the way, £2,000 a month is nothing. Because actually, the average wage bill is probably close to at least £2,500 to £3,000 a month, bearing in mind some are senior managers and you have senior management in your employee cost as well. Now, let me paint a scenario for you to show you how this business model is super attractive for many companies. If a company is paying £2,500 on average per employee and they have 100 employees, that means they're paying £250,000 in salaries. Now, let's say you didn't replace 100 employees, you replaced 10 employees. Instead of paying £2,500, you replaced that same job, just 10 employees by the way, and got that same work done, if not even better, for £700. To give you an idea, you would be saving that company, which is a medium-sized company, £18,000 a month. And over a year, you would be saving them more than £200,000. That's exactly the potential that something like this has. Because if you do it for a larger company, and here we're just talking about 10 people, right? 10 people being replaced, instead of £2,500, they now have to pay £700. And actually, I would argue and I would say, because the people in the third world countries, as long as you find the right person, and that's something we're going to go into, as long as you find the right person, right? I would say that actually the work ethic and the person is probably going to want to work a lot harder. Because look, let's be honest now, and you need to listen to these things, right? Because these are the sort of things, these are the problems that we're resolving. And it's very important for you to take notes on these problems, because the problems you're listening to right now, you will take these problems to the clients and the companies when you speak to them. These problems are the problems that you're going to say, well, this is what I'm solving for you, and this is what it's going to cost you X, and etc., etc. So it's important for you, by the way, to understand the problems that I'm talking to you about right now, so you can give clients and company solutions and therefore charge money. Now, obviously, there's going to be a sales part to this course. Obviously, I'm going to go through that, but it's important for me to mention here, take note of every single point that I'm mentioning here, because a big issue that companies face is when they get people in on the lower end. And I say this in the respectful way, but when someone's on a £25,000 a year salary, the risk with those £25,000 a year salary, it's much higher. Usually it's the younger generation. Usually it's the generation that actually wants to move around a lot more. Usually they don't really care as much. It's just a fact. And I've been in recruitment, again, to reiterate, for 11 years. So I understand completely where the problems are for companies. And when you're paying someone between 22,000 to 27, 28,000, generically speaking, in terms of a ratio, your success rate is much lower compared to someone who's getting paid 60, 70, 80,000, who maybe is older, has responsibility, children, and they can't take the risk. Someone who is maybe 22, 23 is taking a lot of risk. They don't really care as much. And so when you replace that person, not only are you reducing cost here, but actually you're increasing productivity. And the way you increase productivity is by giving an offer to someone who is in need of an offer, who actually is grateful for the offer, who actually you're paying way more than the average cost in that country, for example. And you're paying them way more than they get paid as the average individual in that country. And obviously the cost of living is tons, much lower, right? That is the reality. The cost is much lower. So actually you're giving everyone a solution. You're giving the company a solution in terms of charging much less and finding someone who will be there for them, work extra and put in that effort. Right? You're then in essence, this is what you're doing, right? The person who gets paid 60, 70,000 pounds a year, and that behavior and how they are and their responsibility, etc., that sort of work ethic is what you get by paying someone 700 pounds, right? In a country, for example, where the cost of living is much lower. That's the sort of attitude you get, because that is much more. So to give you guys an idea, if I was to pay 500 pounds a month in Pakistan, where the average salary, I would say, is between 40 and 60,000 rupees a month. 40 and 60,000 rupees a month, by the way, is roughly about 150 pounds a month. But actually, if I then pay them 400, 450 pounds, 500 pounds a month, and then I'm charging the company 750, 800 pounds a month, then you're not doing bad. And we will obviously go into the numbers, and I will explain exactly how you can make 10,000 pounds a month profit very quickly, but that's a little bit later in the course. Bearing in mind, another problem that you're solving for the company is what you would say is, regardless of if this person is in or not, your work is going to get done. So they're paying for an employee in Pakistan, right? Away from the holidays, because you can't really control holidays and public holidays for that country. But that person won't really call in sick. And even if they call in sick, it's fine. You as a company are still going to provide that service, because you might have 3-4 people carrying out custom support, admin, PA roles, whatever it is, right? And actually someone else, it would be your job to get someone else to just cover that person's sick leave, which is very easy when you have 4 or 5 people working in an office for you. Someone just picks up the work. But it means for the company, they're reducing cost, they're increasing productivity. There is no such thing as sick leave and that sort of thing, because your work will get done. As a client, as a person who's providing you a service, it's on me to get that work done, and so I would do that. And hopefully that gives you an idea of why a company would even use you. The solution that you're giving. There are problems, they exist, by the way, and you're giving them a solution. You're reducing cost, the productivity is more, and you're making sure that the work gets done regardless. Now, it's a win-win for companies. You have to understand that. But to give you an idea of the scope, and again, we'll go over the numbers after, but to give you an idea of the scope, that how much money you can make and how well you can actually do, if you get one company to, for example, pay £800 for an employee, which is very normal, by the way, then you can hire that same person for £400. And a £400 wage, by the way, as an employee cost would be very good in a lot of these countries. That actually is maybe 300% more than what a lot of the people make in that country, and the cost of living obviously is much lower. So it's not here saying you're taking advantage. Actually, you're creating opportunities. That's key here. Because you don't ever want to feel like you're making it difficult for someone. You're taking advantage of someone. A lot of the guys in the countries in Pakistan, India, a lot of these guys, they want opportunities. They would love to be able to live in their country and have the opportunity to work from their country, because they want to look after their parents and so on and so forth. So actually, it's not a negative. Not by any means are you taking advantage. And as someone, by the way, who does this, I know how grateful the people in Pakistan and the people that I actually do it for are. So now, if you have someone and you're paying them £400 and you're charging the company £800, then you're making £400 per person. That might not sound like a lot. That might sound like, well, is that really a lot of money, to be fair? Well, the person sometimes may even say that I'm happy to work overtime. Could you take on another client and ask that one person to, pay them £500-600 and actually they're looking after 2 companies? That is an option. So in essence, you'd be making £800 profit or £700 or £600 profit per person. But like I said, there are many companies that will turn around and say, yes, we need about 3 or 4 people. Now on 3 or 4 people, you'd be making a salary, a monthly salary for 3 or 4 people carrying out the work, and you would get paid, let's say £1,600 for 4 people. £1,600, by the way, and to reiterate, it's one of the laziest ways you can make money, because one of the best ways you want to make money is where you're sleeping, where you're not having to do something and you're still getting paid. And this is exactly that. Because if 4 people are carrying out the work for 4 companies, and it might not be 4 companies, by the way, because one company might just turn around and say, we need 4 people. That's very common. And to give you an idea, this is something I do, and I don't even market it. I don't actually market the services that I do. And all the time, I will speak to someone and they'll say, oh, we need someone. We need an admin guy. Can you give us an admin guy for £400, £500 a month? I'll be like, yeah, to be fair, it's going to cost you £600. The person, an administrator, by the way, easily you can find an administrator for £200 to £250 a month. Because, they need to speak good English, they need to, write English well, and that sort of thing. So actually, the charges or the cost of an employee at that skill are much lower. Now, how difficult is it for you to replace 10 employees? 10 employees in companies? I promise you something, it's extremely easy. It's extremely easy. And forget even replacing. Actually, there are many people today who would love to have an administrator in Pakistan, an editor in Pakistan. It's funny, I just started a team of editors, and I've had people come to me and say, we need editors, can you help us find someone? And I'm like, yeah, I have a team in Pakistan, you can use them if you want. And now we're just bringing people in on the editing team. So they're doing Photoshop, design, editors, short stuff, YouTubes, all of that stuff. They handle everything. They're very, very, very capable. This is a mistake sometimes we make, that we think that people in these countries aren't capable. But because of the internet, and I will say, because of the internet, people in Pakistan are watching these videos. People in Bangladesh are watching these videos. And they can speak amazing English, and they articulate themselves very well. I would say that some educated people from a lot of these countries articulate themselves and speak much better than people from the UK. Genuinely speaking. So now that I've briefly given you an idea of how you can make some good money, and how you can actually be making £4,000 or £5,000 a month very quickly, very quickly, whilst you carry on working a job, whilst you take a break, study the deen, have a holiday, do whatever you want. You can live your life if you're making £4,000 or £5,000 a month passively. Let's be very honest, right? So it's important for me to give you an idea of how you can actually find these people and how you can start making this work. And I want to get into the meat of this course. I obviously will talk about the sales side and how to get companies and how to get clients, how to get companies to work with you. We'll go through that. And I'll even explain exactly what you need to say on the phone. I am trying to give you as much value as I possibly can in this video, so it would be super helpful if you could like this video and share with your family and friends, and watch until the end. And let me know in the comments, by the way, if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to always help. I think sometimes people get a little bit worried and don't ask the questions even if something comes to mind. So if something comes to mind, ask at any point of the video, it's not a problem. Now, how have I done it and how am I making money? I think it's important to briefly just mention, I set up an office in Pakistan. I've documented it many a times. The idea of the office was for us to provide customer service and sales guys from Pakistan to UK, Canada and America, because again, one, I would love to be able to create opportunities in Pakistan, but second of all, it means that basically we can have a business, we're making money and it works. So I took out an office, but the reality is you don't need to take out an office. Truth is, you could do this from home. Now for me, I think having an office, because of the vision I have and because of where I believe I can take this, it makes sense for me to take out an office, and I pay about £700-800 a month. I think it's about £900 a month to be fair. I pay just for the office, and obviously that then means that I can grow the team quickly. It means that I'm putting investment in the beginning and I grow. Now you don't have to do that, but I will mention that way. If you're going to take out an office, you obviously need to bear in mind other costs like using phone systems. You need to factor in any sort of internet connections and stuff like that. So there are other costs that you need to factor in, and I would say usually, depending on what you're doing, if you're just doing something where it's customer service, admin, if it's calling, for example, maybe not editing, because maybe the editors need particular systems. The office side of the customer service and sales and that sort of guys, the cost is quite low. If you can just get an office, and obviously depending on the country you're looking to do a setup, you can get an office for £500, £600, £700. I think my first office was about £500. You get the office, you need to buy some laptops, you need to buy some computers. It shouldn't be too much, especially in the countries that we're talking about. It's usually a lot cheaper. The computer doesn't need to be high spec, high tech or anything like that, but invest some money because you want to get good systems in place. Now, once you have that, you're going to want to get the internet, and you're going to want to make sure the internet is a good speed, and you don't want it where it's obviously, that I would say is your way of providing the service, and you don't want that service to be going down. Now, there are countries where lighting is an issue, where electricity is an issue, so you will have to look into the matters of each country. We have a generator when it comes to our office, so the electricity never really goes out. And also, I would say there are a couple of regulations, which by the way aren't difficult at all. In these countries, they're not difficult at all, that you might need to look at if, by the way, you're setting up an office. If it's not an office, it's not a problem at all. And that is if you're calling countries, or if you're providing some business services or doing something of that sort, then there is a thing called whitelisting an IP address. You do it in Pakistan. I don't know if you do it in India or any of the other countries, but I can talk to you about Pakistan. You need to whitelist your IP address, which you basically pay a fee, and they whitelist your IP address, allows you to call countries abroad. It's very simple, very quick. You can give a Google search and you'll find companies that will sort that out for you very quickly. Now, majority of you, understandably, wouldn't want to do that, wouldn't want to go through the hassle. You're like, look, I'm just working my job. I want to hire someone and basically I can just get them some work and I can make an extra £400, £500, £700, £800 a month, by just one person working for me in Pakistan, India, and that sort of thing. And to be honest, as long as one person works for you, you'll probably feel very confident in another guy doing it. And if one person can do it for you for 2-3 months, and you're like, you know what, this guy's been working for me, he's making me £400 a month, I can have 3 or 4 guys doing this for me. And all of a sudden you're making £1,500, £2,000 a month. And now all of a sudden you're thinking, I could make this a full-time thing. And I don't want to keep talking to you as if it's only going to be 1 guy or 2 guys, because actually a company could turn around to you and say, we need 10 people, 15 people. And if that's the case, again, one company could make you £4,000 or £5,000 a month, by the way, passively, right? And another company could make you another £4,000, £3,000. So it is definitely a business model you can make a lot of money in. Though I would say that, as for example, I have my own recruitment company, right? Within 6 months, I can see myself making £20,000 a month. With something like this, it probably would mean that it's very difficult for you to get to £20,000 a month after 6 months, but you can make £2,000-3,000 within a month or 2 months, if that makes sense. So it's easier to make smaller money quickly, right? And it's easier to make, and it's completely passive. It's not asking for a lot of work. But for example, for something like a recruitment company, it might take a little bit longer, but it means where one guy gets the job, you're charging £5,000-6,000 fee. So one guy gets a job and you get £5,000. Whether it's something like this, your profit margin is £400 or £500, £600. And so you're having to, it's easier to get little money quickly. And on this side, you can make a lot of money, if that makes sense. By the way, if you ever are interested in setting up your own recruitment company, we do actually teach how to set up a recruitment company. It's a complete free course. I don't need anything. I'm not asking you to do anything with this. But if you're ever looking to set up a recruitment company, I've been in the recruitment industry for 11 years. It's what I do. I know it really well. We have other directors that teach how to set up a recruitment company. We'll leave the link in the description below where you can leave your details if setting up a recruitment company is something you want to do. We do teach a paid course on how to set up a recruitment company. But again, this video is particularly about this. So hopefully we can teach you on how you can set up this model completely for free. I don't need anything of you guys. I'm just letting you guys know. So now, how do I find candidates? How do I go about finding people to carry out the work for me? And obviously we will go through the sales and winning the business side, but how do we actually get the people? One of the easiest ways to get people, and I will just tell you right now, I actually put out an advert on Indeed, to be fair. And what I'm going to do, and hopefully it's of benefit to you guys, I will show you the advert. Well, I'll just show you now and I'll ask the editor to put it up. If you guys can just stop at this point and read exactly what the advert says, and you can write an advert similar to this, and put it up on Indeed. And to give you guys an idea, I have an advert running on Indeed where I'm looking for a sales executive in Pakistan, in Lahore. I've had a total of 6,836 applications, and the cost of this is about 20-30 pounds a month. To run an advert on Indeed, and you get tons of applications. You get hundreds minimum of people wanting jobs, and as long as you're providing a good job, which in essence you are, then you're able to actually get a lot of people interested. So my best way is on Indeed. And then what ends up happening is you hire people who are experienced, and you hire people who are like managers at a good level, who then are able to hire other people. And that's what I will say. And I think this is a crucial part of when you're setting up, that in the beginning, the first 1 or 2 people, don't worry about your margins as much. Get the good people. If you have to pay a little bit extra, completely fine. Why? Because it will mean that they will then go on to hire other people, and they will help you grow the company. And that has helped me massively. Today, I probably do about 2 or 3 hours max, absolutely maximum a week. If I'm being honest, that's exaggerating, because it's probably about half an hour a week. But, and that I have been able to do because I've put managers in place. I've hired experienced people, and they are able to carry out the work, and they're able to hire people, interview people, and sack people if need be. And they're able to deal with the companies. That's crucial, by the way, because they actually speak really good English. They articulate themselves really well. So actually, it's a case of when I speak to a company, obviously people are more inclined to speak to me because they know I'm not from Pakistan and I'm going to provide a good service to them, right? So now that when they speak to me, once they're agreed and the trust is there, everything like that, I can pass them over to the person who's dealing with them in Pakistan, and actually they are able to deal with this company in terms of providing service to them, dealing with questions or any issues like that. And by the way, obviously, this is a complete course and I'm going to go over every single part, and therefore I will mention the pay and how to take payments and that sort of thing, and how we take payments. But going on Indeed and getting applications on Indeed has definitely worked for me. Again, to reiterate, keep your salaries high. Keep the salaries high, especially for the first 1, 2, 3 hires. It will save you a lot of hassle. If you're trying to be a little bit stingy in the beginning, you're going to get people who will flop on you, who won't do the work as well as they should, who will mess you about, and it will end up taking time. And I don't want that, because this is the laziest way you can make money, not the hardest way. Make sure, spend a little bit of extra money and get the right person so that you are saving time later on. Now, when you start getting the CVs in, it's very important to make sure that they're actually writing the CVs well. I think it's a mistake sometimes we make, and it's very obvious. But read through the CV very briefly and make sure that they are writing it well and they formatted it well. You will find in many of these countries, unfortunately, people will just apply for the sake of applying, and there won't be much substance there, right? Unfortunately, and random people might apply to random jobs. We get that in the UK as well, but we definitely get it a lot more in countries that are classed as the third world countries, right? So I would say focus also on those that have a good education from these countries as well. Though I don't think it's a big thing in the UK, it is in the other countries, because if you've received a high level of education, the likelihood is you'll probably be able to converse quite well and send good emails and articulate yourself quite fairly well. And so remember to read through the CV, have a conversation. Now, when you're having a conversation with them, tell them exactly what you're doing and say, I've got companies who are interested in people. They need people with your skill set to do admin work, customer service work, sales work, marketing, editing, whatever it is. And remember this, by the way, guys, just because I'm mentioning something doesn't mean that's it, because anything you can do remotely, you can do from Pakistan, you can do from India, you can do from Bangladesh and Thailand, and so much more. You could do from Somalia, honestly, like my Somali brothers. Like, if you guys are watching me right now, I love the Somalian brothers, right? If you guys are watching me, you guys can do this from Somalia, it's not a problem. The main thing you just need is internet. As long as you have the internet, which most of us have everywhere, right? As long as you have the internet, you can make this business model work. So when you're speaking to them, speak to them about the job, exactly what it's about, exactly what you need from them. Reiterate the attitude is key, and you providing a service and you want to go over and beyond. Attitude is everything. You need that person to go over and beyond for the client, and so the client feels like this person is really good and they want to work with them on the long-term basis, and so that is key. You need to make sure that you are judging the person not only for their skill set. You will find plenty of people for their skill set, but actually they are able to do the work and their attitude is good as well. And it might mean that you have to take a day trial or 2-day trial. That is something that unfortunately, you may, obviously you would pay them, right? But you just may need to figure out who is good and who is not. Attitude is absolutely everything. So when you're hiring someone, make sure you focus on that. Now, I do want to take out a moment and say that I created a platform called Teach You. Teach You is a platform where you get to learn different skills like sales, cold calling, marketing, developing something in AI, Python, starting something in SaaS, and so much and so forth. There's actually a lot of benefit in there. And we've got a special offer on right now where you can sign up for just £1.99 for the first month. There's tons of information on there. And as you can see from this video, my idea is always going to be and will always be to over deliver on something. So Teach You, I know, is something where we are over delivering, and it's just £1.99 for the first month. And after that, it's £23.99. You can learn sales, cold calling, marketing, winning business, all of that, business optimization. There's tons on there and it's super cheap. I'll leave the link in the description below. For those of you that are interested, you can take advantage of the offer. But let's get right back into it. Now, what should you focus on first? Should you focus on the client side first, or should you focus on the candidate first? I think this is actually crucial. What I would do personally is I would get out an advert. It's not going to cost you much. 20-30 quid a month is peanuts, let's be honest, right? Get out an advert and start having a conversation with companies. Again, we'll go over the sales side, but I just want to make sure you understand and exactly what you would do first. I would go back to the advert, see how I wrote my advert, change it up a little bit, obviously change it up a little bit, by the way, and then get that advert out on Indeed, start advertising roles, get people to apply. Once you have some CVs, once you've had you've had a couple of conversations, you haven't hired anyone, you can then start doing the sales side and bringing in business and going and closing some business. Now, when you're doing that, what will happen is you can very quickly get people started within weeks, maybe, or even a couple of days, to be fair, because there will be people who could start immediately. And I guess you don't want them to start, you don't want to have to pay them before you've even got the company to agree to work with you. Now, how would you win business? This is crucial, and this is one of the main parts that I want to go over. And obviously it's very detailed, so take notes. If you haven't still liked this video, knowing how much benefit and how long it's taken me to come up and make this video, it's kind of sad, I have to be honest. So make sure you let me know in the comments if this was beneficial first, and like this video, because it does help me get the message out to more people. And before we get into the complicated part of how to get clients and how to get businesses and companies to work with you, it's important to mention here that there are many easy ways to get businesses to work with you, rather than picking up the phone and negotiating. And to be honest, that is going to happen at some point. So you need to become good at speaking on the phone, dealing with clients, negotiating, agreeing, in essence, dealing with objections on the phone. And that, again, is something we're going to cover shortly. But it's very important for you to be active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of those places where you can make a lot of movements, where you can win a lot of business if done right. Posting on LinkedIn is something which is underrated. Not a lot of people do it, and it has to be done by you guys. And I'm only emphasizing it because of one simple reason. I have seen the growth on LinkedIn, and I have seen the potential on LinkedIn. I probably have started being a little bit active on LinkedIn about 5-6 months ago. And now, again, I say this now as alhamdulillah, we've gone from, I think it was about 3,000-4,000 followers up to 12,000 followers within about 4 or 5 months, just by being active on LinkedIn. And that wasn't even every day. It was maybe 2 or 3 times a week on average, if I averaged it out. Many weeks we didn't upload at all. But you have to understand something, right? LinkedIn, you're going to get managing directors, founders, directors following you. The people on LinkedIn are corporate people. The people on LinkedIn are the people exactly that you want to be able to provide these services to. You need a few people replaced or doing some extra work, and LinkedIn is an amazing place for you to be able to do that. Now, if you're working your job, if you don't have time, the least you could do is take 5 to 10 minutes out every single day and just write a post. Talk about your experience, talk about an interview, talk about what works, what doesn't work, talk about your job, talk about how you're looking to start this as a business. If that is even something that you can do, then do that. Speak about it, because people are interested in it. The same way you're watching me right now, people will be interested in your journey. So make sure, talk about these things, because when you start getting a little bit of views, when you start getting a little bit of people interested in your journey, you'll be surprised how quickly people are interested in understanding exactly what you do, exactly what your services are, and the companies will actually reach out to you and say, yes, we need someone. Yes, can you help us find someone in admin? Yes, can you help us find someone in marketing and editing, and so on and so forth. Reality is this: nothing is going to happen until you put in the actions. Nothing's going to happen until you put in the efforts. So it's crucial for you to start taking those steps. Now, what can you talk about on LinkedIn, and the thing that maybe some direction that I can give you? Remember to make the first 2 lines on your post the hook, so make them really interesting. Use pictures if you can, but I mean pictures, I don't mean take pictures of yourself. I mean like a workspace, something you're doing, whatever it is. Provide value. Providing value is also very crucial on LinkedIn. Like if you have written up a good job advert, maybe you can do pros and cons of a job advert and what has worked for you and what has not worked for you. Maybe when you're interviewing people and when you're speaking to people, maybe you can talk about how people are and some good questions to ask people. And maybe you can ask people to give you some feedback and what questions they feel like are good questions to ask in an interview stage. So there are tons of things, and there are tons of ways that you can be active on LinkedIn, and so it's crucial here. Now, another way is obviously sending emails. Sending emails to companies, sending emails, again, before you've even picked up the phone and spoken to anyone, and that is a big part of how you can win business. You don't have to do that. Even if you just do the LinkedIn side and you send emails to companies, you will win a lot of business. And I want to go over step by step in exactly the sort of email you want to mention, but I think it's important to mention before I tell you where to get emails from, how to send emails. Let's go over what your email should look like. The subject, it's important for you to make it interesting enough where the person actually wants to open the email. And understand something, that the longer the email, the less the person will want to read it. That's a fact. The person is not going to want to read a long email. So please don't be sending paragraphs upon paragraphs. In fact, all you need to do is send a couple of lines. Maybe something like, we're a X service and we provide X and X and X, whatever that is. We've got a couple of guys doing this work, and it doesn't cost more than £500. Is this something you would be interested in? That's it. That is it. If you're happy to have a conversation, maybe we can get on the phone in about next few days. That is it. And if you send that email to 10,000 people, and it's very easy to send an email out to 10,000 people these days. If you do send an email out to 10,000 people, you'll be surprised how many people are actually interested and how many companies come back. By the way, 2 people, 3 people, and you've got yourself £1,000, £1,500 extra a month. And bearing in mind, one company could turn around with one person in the beginning and later on take on about 5, 6, 7 people, as long as you're providing a good service. So I had to take a small break because I needed to go to the toilet and have some food, but let's get right back into it. I want to start talking about, here I want to be quite specific in what you need to mention in an email. So what I'm going to do now is I've written up some emails and I'm going to put them up for you to see. Have a look at them and see exactly how I would write an email and some examples. Again, stop the video at this point, read it, take screenshots, whatever you need to do. Now, one of the main reasons I be very quick and specific and to the point, and like I mentioned before, is because in essence, no one has time to read paragraphs upon paragraphs. I'm a director.
of several companies, to be fair, and I get numerous amount of companies getting in touch with me and saying, we would like to, we're going to offer you X, and we're going to give you stationery, and we're going to give you some service, and there's always someone getting in touch. And honestly speaking, you don't have time for it. So I guess what I would say is there's always a time and a place where I have got time to read an email. But if I see that there's just so much, as in it's paragraphs upon paragraphs, I don't have the time. If I'm being completely honest, I don't have the time to read over everything. And so keep it to the point, keep it specific, and logically, it might not make sense to you. But as someone who's been in business for I've been in recruitment for 11 years, therefore I've been in sales for 11 years, I've been emailing companies for 11 years, and I've been running my own business for 7+ years. Trust me when I say it does work. Now, there are a number of websites where you can get tons of email contacts of companies, and you can send thousands of emails out at any one point. Now, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, because they're a little bit generic. You will have to pay some money sometimes to use the good services, and many of these services are free. What I would say to you guys is give it a search on Google and see which service works best for you. I'm not a huge user of mass emailing. It's not something that I use to heavily develop my business, and so I don't want to guide you in the wrong direction. This is something that you're going to have to do some research on. There are websites out there, but I will never advise on something that I am not a massive advocate of, or something that I haven't done a lot. Now, I have sent mass emails. I have seen them work a little bit, and there are many softwares, many websites where you can send out mass emails, get mass contacts of people working within companies, and it really does work. What I like to do, to be fair, is be a little bit specific and target companies. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say, for example, you guys are based in the UK, and locally you come up with 100 companies that could use your service. I would rather you make a list of 100 companies in your local area that could use your service, and then send them send them an email, add them up on LinkedIn, speak to them, have a phone conversation with them, and have it where it's targeted, right? And in essence, what you would do is you would speak to them from the basis of, I'm based in your local area, I've just started this new business, I've just done this, I have people for me in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, wherever, sort of thing, and we're looking to provide this service. Would this be of interest to you? And maybe then you could even go see them to be like, I'm in your local area, I can come see you for 5-10 minutes. That sort of stuff really, really helps. Targeting business development massively helps. Rather than you just sending a random email to 50,000 people, actually having a targeted approach means that you are actually building a relationship, building business, and that's actually how real businesses have started. If I'm being honest, I see a lot of people on social media talking about this stuff, but I've never started a business in my life, which is crazy, to say the least, to be fair, right? So as someone who has started multiple businesses, targeted business development is beneficial, and it's something that I would recommend, though I would say that every single approach should be taken in the sense where it's not one or the other. Though for me, I would focus on a targeted approach. Now, I will obviously go over the sales side, and I'm going to tell you exactly how you should deal with the negotiating, how you can negotiate. I'm going to talk about the objections. I'm going to talk about how you can speak and what to say to them. All of that I'm going to cover. So again, if you still haven't liked this video, I don't know what you're doing, because I'm trying to give you so much value in this video. Make sure to subscribe, because this isn't the only course I'm going to do. I've actually started 6 different businesses in the last 7 years. And for many of those businesses, I'm going to teach you exactly how I started those businesses in the exact same way I'm teaching you about this business. I've taken it to making £10,000+ a month, and I want to teach you now, and I'm teaching you for free. I'm an expert in recruitment. I have to be honest. I've been doing it for 11 years. I know that inside out. So I can now provide a service to you where it's a paid service, and that's exactly where my bread and butter is. So for that we charge, but for everything else, it's free. And obviously we have our Teach You platform where we get other experts to teach exactly what they know. And it's £1.99 for the first month, by the way. And that, by the way, is definitely going to come in handy for the sales side, because on there, I myself have a 5-hour sales course. A 5-hour sales course, by the way, on exactly how to go through objection, negotiating, everything like that. And we obviously have so much more. That is super valuable. I know it is. And I would never provide something that I didn't think was up to the scratch in terms of value, if not provided more value than what we were charging. But now, before we talk about the sales side and negotiating, closing companies, what to say with them, what sort of objections they will come up with, because they will come up with objections, let's talk about the back office, because the back office, the back end is very important. Paying people, taking payments, your taxes, your company, your registration, that sort of thing. And this is crucial, so make sure you're taking notes. Now, by the way, remember, if at any point you're getting stuck and if there's something you don't understand, just go back and rewatch it. This video is for you guys, it's free, and I want you guys to take as much benefit as you can. If you're benefiting, that is gonna make me happy. Like, genuinely speaking, that's the most important thing for me, that as long as you guys are benefiting, you can imagine how much time has gone into this video. Like, if you're seeing an hour and a half video, for example, if that's what you're seeing, then I've probably taken about 3.5, 4 hours making this video for you guys at least. Now, when it comes to your employees, how would you go about paying them? There's a couple of ways, if I'm being honest, and it totally does depend on your on the country, and it totally depends on the laws and regulations that they have. If we're being completely honest, as a company now, if you're based in the UK, and I have to be specific here, though I will mention if you're in a different country as well, just briefly. A lot of the people that watch me are from the UK. If you're from a different country, and if you have a question regarding something from a different country, please let me know in the comments below and I will try to help you guys. Now, if you're from the UK, then first of all, register your company. The reason you want to register your company also is because when you're speaking to companies and when you're having a conversation, you don't want to come across as someone who is based somewhere else, because actually the biggest selling point about you is you're based in the UK, you understand the UK culture, you understand the work ethic, you understand all that, and then you're going to provide the labor from another country. Does that make sense? And so it's important. Have a registered company. It adds a lot of trust. It adds a lot of oomph when it comes to your company. And obviously, you want to protect yourselves at all times. Not to say that you're doing anything wrong, because you're not. By the way, let me reiterate that you're not doing anything wrong. Now, how much does it cost to start a company? To be fair, it varies massively. I know it recently has gone up in price, but it's about £50 there or thereabouts to register a company. Is it difficult? No, it's not. Just go on Google. Type in register a company. You can go on the Companies House website and register your company. You can register a company through other companies. A couple of questions usually people have about registering a company. You do not need to register your company on your home address. You can use a virtual address. That's not a problem. It's fairly simple. It's fairly easy. Register your company. Usually you hear back within about 24 hours. Do not use your home address as the same as the business address. It does recently, it's been causing an issue. I know a couple of people have had that problem. So try getting a virtual address or a different address as the business and a different address for your house. I think it's quite important, like as a different address for the director, which obviously would be you. It's causing an issue, so just make those two separate and hopefully that benefits you guys. But when it comes to paying employees, there are companies in the countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Thailand, wherever sort of thing. There are companies that will actually take the payment from you and then pay the employees. And then they will, sort out the taxes and that sort of thing. Now, the easier way is the same as doing something on a self-employed basis. Most of these countries have a self-employed. In fact, I would say I don't know of a country that doesn't, but you pay them directly. As a company, you need to make sure you are looking after the taxes for your company. When you pay someone in Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc., it's upon them now to look after their taxes, their deductions, and make sure they tell the authorities of what they're getting paid, etc., etc. It's not really too much of your concern because you're paying them, and obviously laws and regulations change in those countries. That's something you want to tell the candidate when you are hiring them, that obviously I may be paying you into your own company or paying you into your account, and it's upon you to let your authorities and country know. And I would even put that in a contract, and just so that person is clear that it's upon them to let the country or the authorities know that where they are based, that they need to make sure that they are paying the taxes, whatever those are, because obviously those vary from country to country, that they are looking after that, and that onus is on them. It's important. So get that in a contract. Again, when you have a contract with an employee, you usually would put these things in there, and make sure in the contract you have a notice period. Make sure in the contract you have the hours of work. And these are crucial. Actually, whilst we're actually speaking about the hours of work, it's important to understand that you want to work to the Western hours, right? So, for example, in Pakistan, the time might be 4 hours ahead, right? So when it's 8 o'clock in the UK, it might be 12 o'clock in Pakistan. So, by the way, people are very used to working to the Western times in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Thailand, wherever, by the way, whichever third world country or which other country has lower costs you want to use. Bear the timing in mind. You want them to be working to the Western market timing, whether you're in America, Canada, the UK, or wherever you are based, you want them to work to the UK timings. And so you would have that conversation that the timings would be not 9 to 5 for you, but 8 to 6 for the UK, basically. And usually, just to give you a tip on this, I like to get people in working out, an hour before they actually start working. That's helpful because they can do the admin, the organizing, and then get to work, right? So don't feel like you can only get them in for like 9 o'clock. I would say 8 o'clock UK time is probably a good time to get them in working because a lot of companies these days are starting at 8 o'clock, 8:30. So 9 o'clock might actually be too late. And usually the hours that we work are 9 hours. So I do 9 hours. And by the way, some people do 10, 12 hours even, right? But again, I come from a Western culture, and so I would always want to treat everyone with respect, and that's exactly what we try to do. So we work to 9 hours. Our timings would basically work out to be 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and that works quite well for us. Now, how you would get paid is into a business account, and that's something we will cover, but you will get paid into your business account, and then from that business account, you would pay the employees. It's important for you to take all their details, and sometimes for international payments you need some sort of details, right? For some countries you might have to do wise transfer, that's WISE. Sometimes the transfer is a little bit sensitive, sometimes it doesn't work as well, and so it's important to make sure when you're sending the money across that you factor all these things in, and you really understand how you're going to be able to get the money to them. And I would even say send the money 2-3 days earlier for their wages, because a lot of these guys really do need the money. A lot of these guys are making ends meet, and it's important. Like, I think for us especially, I'm a Muslim, and for me it's crucial to pay people on time. And so it's a mistake that I've made in the past where I want to pay people on the date, right? And then it gets delayed. That's upsetting because I know that the onus is on me and I need to get people paid on the day. So, I'm trying to do this even more and more now, where if I'm paying people abroad, I pay them a few days before so they get to pay on the day, if not earlier, because it doesn't affect me that much, but it affects them a lot. So that's advice I would give to you guys as well. Make sure you're paying them either into their bank accounts, their business bank accounts, through wise transfer, whatever services you're using. Those three are the ones that I use, and so I would recommend them. Make sure you do it a little bit early just in case there is an issue, and if there is an issue, you solve it as quick as you possibly can. Now, in regards to your taxes, obviously your taxes would vary depending on where you're based, if you're in the UK, Canada, America, all that sort of thing. Now, obviously in the UK, you're going to pay taxes based on the UK, and I can give a little bit of advice on that. And by that, obviously speak to accountants, and those are the guys that you need to speak to. I'm not an accountant, and I'm not a tax specialist by any means. But when you're paying these employees, you want to do everything through your business account because that's an expense. And so any expenses you have, if there's anything that you buy, if for example, let's say in the country that you are hiring someone, that person says they need a laptop and you need to buy something for £200-300, tell them, get the receipt, keep the receipt, because that is going to be an expense. And so you will not pay taxes on your expenses, which is why I go back to, you need to pay people from your business account, and don't just pay them from your personal account, that sort of thing. Run a business as a business should be run, and these things are things that you should always keep on top of. So make sure you speak to an accountant when it comes to your taxes, because we hope that you make a decent amount of money and you're doing really well for yourself. And here again, I would say it's probably not that important in the beginning, and when I say the beginning, but the first 3 to 6 months for you to register for VAT. But I would say after a little while, if you want to grow from just having one person to having 3, 4, 5 people, register for VAT, even if you're going to make less than the threshold. And the reason I say that is because it just looks a lot more professional. Because if a company sees that you're not even charging VAT, it's very obvious that you're making less than £80,000 a year, or whatever the VAT threshold is at the moment. My companies aren't actually even in the UK anymore. They were until a year and a half ago, and so unless it's changed, I'm not sure. But do register for VAT, because I think if you're not charging VAT, I'll be like, well, he's not even making 80 grand a year. That sounds bad, but for a business that's not making £80,000 a year, you're basically probably just working from your bedroom, and it doesn't look very professional. So in the beginning, it's not that much headache. Speak to an accountant. If it's obviously very easy, then do it, because you can claim VAT back on the products and things and services that you use, but also it does look a lot more professional. Now, when it comes to the company, and I will speak about how to close the company and how to completely win the company on board, how to negotiate, how to deal with objections, what sort of objections they will come up with. We'll go through all of that, right? And that, I think, is hopefully going to be very interesting and hopefully with a lot of value for you guys. But when it comes to charging the company, how would you go about charging, and how would you take payment off them? What I do, and I think it works quite well, is depending on the company, right? Depending on the company. If it's a fairly large organization, I will send an invoice. Sometimes they need a PO number. Google search a PO number, an invoice template. Maybe I will just put one of my invoices up as a template now, so the editor can show you, and again, copy it, paste it, whatever sort of thing you want to do. It's just a template. And so I will send an invoice. Many a times I send a link of Stripe. Now, what is Stripe? Many of you will know what Stripe is. Stripe is a payment processing system where in essence it processes payments. Some of you may not know what that is, and a lot of you will know what Stripe is. And for those that know what Stripe is, just bear with me, okay? But on Stripe, basically, you can charge people on a monthly basis, on a reoccurring basis, a one-time payment. And so it's very, very, very useful. And what I mean by that is you can actually make a link on Stripe. You send someone the link, you say, if you can pay, and just, send your details. Well, you don't even send your details, you just pay on there, right? And then as soon as you pay, you are signed up to a monthly agreement. Right? I would send some sort of a contract to the client at some point. I don't think I would do it in the first day or 2 days, but I would within the week. And let me tell you why as well, because I'm not a big believer of sending contracts and terms and conditions and that sort of thing, just because I think it's a lot of paperwork and people don't like to sign away their life, right? A company doesn't like to sign things that they don't need to sign. But I'll tell you why. On Stripe, you can send a link. They are therefore paying for someone on a monthly basis. And this is a conversation you will need to have with the company, that, we've got this guy, we want to pay them on time. It's very important for us to pay them on time and pay them well. And so if I can ask you to sort this payment link out, and then the pay will, or the date will be the day you pay, and it will be on a reoccurring monthly basis, because obviously the assumption would be that this person is working for them for 12 months, 24 months, 36. I mean, you can have a guy working for them for like 3 years, because in essence, he's their employee. Now, he's not technically their employee, so they don't have liability on this person, but obviously they are paying for this person to carry out the work, right? Now, you can send this link and it will automatically deduct pay from their accounts, etc., etc. You will need to have that conversation with a company. Is it okay for us to do this? This is the easiest way. Or would you rather I send you an invoice every month and you pay that invoice? The problem with that is, there is a slight problem, that they will say, yes, not a problem, but they will always pay you 30 days after you send that invoice. In simple business terms, that is a 30 days date of invoice. So if the person works a month, then you send the invoice, then that person or the company would pay you 30 days after, which actually means you would get paid 60 days after the person starts working, right? Those are payment terms. That's basically what payment terms are, right? And the reason I stutter there, basically, because you don't know that. I mean, normal people don't know what payment terms are, unless you work in this department or unless you run businesses and stuff. You don't know that, right? By the way, payment terms can vary. So you can also ask them to do a 7 days date of invoice. Make notes on this, guys. You can ask the company to do a 7 days date of invoice, a 14 days date of invoice, a 30 days date of invoice. Date of invoice just means I will pay you the day you send the invoice, 7 days after, 14 days after, or 30 days after. That is what a payment terms are, in essence, right? You can even be 30 days end of month, okay? And I don't want to go into that, but you do not want to talk about end of month, right? Just whenever you're speaking to a company, say to them, look, in an ideal situation, we don't want to work past 7 or 14 days date of invoice because we're looking to payroll, the guys, in these countries that are carrying out the work for you, and we want them to get paid on the right day. And so ideally, if we could work to 7 days date of invoice, that would be best, so we are not delaying payments. And usually, by the way, I would say 9 out of 10 times, a company is very understanding because they understand they want to pay their employees on time. It's a little bit technical. I hope you understand. I hope you also understand that I've been running businesses for 7 years. Alhamdulillah, I have a long way to go. And inshallah, I learn a lot. And whilst I'm learning everything that I'm learning, I can share it with you guys. Whilst I'm running my businesses, whilst I'm growing, whilst I'm doing everything that I'm probably going to, inshallah, do, if Allah allows me to do, I will continue sharing it with you guys. I will also say that these things are not things that I would know unless I had been in the business world for a long time. The more I speak, hopefully, the more you guys understand that this guy clearly knows a little bit when it comes to the business world. And, I don't know if many people are comfortable enough to sit in front of you for an hour and a half, 2 hours and give value, because they probably can't. As bad as it is, it generally probably can't give you that much value. So anyway, that's payment terms. You send an invoice. Ideally, remember that's a backup. I'd rather you set up on Stripe and make payments on Stripe. Now, setting up on Stripe is actually very easy. Register your company on Companies House. If I'm being honest, I can't remember exactly how it is in the UK because my setup is in Dubai now. I've been very vocal about that. I've been running businesses. I ran businesses in the UK for like 5-6 years, and now everything is in Dubai. But it should be fairly simple. Set up with Stripe and ideally send a link. You don't have to worry about it again. It's reoccurring, and you don't have to worry about sending an invoice. You send the link, they pay once on that same date. The money goes out, the money goes out, the money goes out. It's a direct debit, basically. I mean, I could have just called it a direct debit. Now I'm calling it a direct debit, all right? So in essence, it's a direct debit for them, which just means that, again, the way you would have that conversation is, it's important for me to payroll these guys on time and make sure they're getting the money on time. So if I could just ask you to sort this payment link out, and then the money will come out as soon as, obviously, you sort the link out. That's, when the money's going to come out. And then next month, the money's going to come out the same date next month. So hopefully that's fine with you. I would also have, I'm just going to have a little bit of water, but I would also have some sort of an agreement in terms of a notice period. Again, I'm going to mention this in the sales and the negotiating side, because remember, every single problem for the client, you can negotiate. Every single thing that you can negotiate with the client, and these are things that you can negotiate on. It's not set in stone, but I would be looking to agree at least a 3-month minimum period, because what I would say is, you can interview the guy, you can have a conversation with a guy, and let's actually speak about that. How much should the client be able to have a conversation with the client or with the person that you have? In an ideal situation, not at all. In an ideal situation, it's you that handles that conversation. You say, we use some of the best people abroad. We interview them, we reference them, and they're good guys, and they work, they've done work for us. If they have, obviously, you don't make stuff up and you never lie. I never lie in business, and it's why I've got to where I have, because alhamdulillah, I never ever will lie in business. But if they have, then they have. And if they haven't, then I would just say we've referenced them, we've interviewed them, and they're really good guys. If they push it, and if they're like, look, we would just like to have an initial conversation with the person, I would say, look, like, the whole point we're charging £400, look, like, let's do 1 month trial. Let's do 1 month trial. If you're not happy with the service, then we will change the person, or we can have a discussion about it then. I would try to not allow them to speak to the person. And the reason I do that, by the way, is because I don't ideally want them to speak to the person. They're like, oh, he's crap. Even though they might not be, by the way. But at that point, when the client is interviewing our candidate in a country abroad, well, the reality is, they're probably just going to see it as, I want this person to work well for us, right? Which is obviously good, all well and good, but they might not factor in that they're only paying £800 for the person, right? Usually it won't be a problem. 8 out of 10 times it won't be a problem, but I would rather avoid it. Now, if they insist, it's fine. It's not a problem, because you should be comfortable and confident in the person that you have. Bearing in mind that the people you're hiring should be at a good caliber, and you should be overpaying for the good guys and really good guys. Do not select and do not cut out and go cheap on the person that you hire. And this again is something that you can negotiate on, because if the company is saying, you know, let's have a 1 month trial, right? Then you have a 1 month trial. But in an ideal situation, what you would want to say is, look, with any employment, the first month is usually a period of learning, a period of training, and a period of understanding. So we do ask for you to commit to us for a minimum period of 3 months, so we can help the person get up to, up to the standards that you want them to get to. They can learn, they can be trained up, and we can work together. Rather than you seeing it as a point that come in, hit the ball running, and just be amazing, because that's never going to work. Setting expectations in the beginning is actually crucial for you to be able to keep someone in a company for a long time. So if you have someone and you say, look, I've got this really good guy, he'll do the work for you. What is it you need? You need them to do X and X and X, not a problem. They can handle all that work for you. What I just would recommend and what I would suggest is if we could get a soft agreement made where this person is committed to you for a 3 month period with a 1 month notice. Even if you want to let them go, there's a 1 month notice. And the reason I say that is because we obviously have people, and we have to factor in, we have to look after them. Their livelihoods are on stake. We want to get the best, and we will get the best. That's our problem. We will make sure of that. But we also want to protect our people, one. And two, no one should be expected to come and hit the ball running, especially when it's a new role and it's a new job. Some element of learning is required with anything. I think that expectation is crucial for you to have a healthy relationship. Now, don't overcommit. Don't come in and say they're going to be amazing, they're going to do this and this and this and this and this, because when they don't, well, the person will just get sacked after the second month or the third month, even if the company's paying £800. So set expectations and let that company know that I genuinely believe that this person within 6 months, in a 6 month period, could be, super, beneficial for you guys, be great in terms of the productivity side. I believe that, but obviously it does take, a couple of months, as it does with everyone, by the way. It takes a couple of months to get them up to scratch. Set expectations is crucial. So hopefully that I've given you an idea of exactly how and what the potential is when it comes to this sort of business. We've spoken about how you need to be a little bit active on LinkedIn. We've spoken about the email side and what sort of emails you guys need to be sending. We've also spoken about the expectations. We've spoken about a number of things when it comes to the payroll and paying your guys and the admin stuff in the background. Your expenses in the beginning really aren't that much. If I'm being completely honest, your expenses in the beginning are basically for the person, to do their work. Now, there are people that may ask you to, that they need to buy a laptop. And you might be thinking, what if they rob me? What if they're not going to buy this laptop? If I'm being completely honest, you should take some sort of ID of them. Take their ID, take their passport, take this sort of information. I think it's a security thing and it should be taken anyway. And make sure they have a right to work in the country they're based in. Hopefully you're not, someone might not have a right to work, right? So make sure that they do have their passports and the pictures and that sort of thing. And I would also ask for some sort of proof of address from them as well, whatever that might well be. So at least if anything ever goes wrong, you can get in touch with someone in authorities or whatever sort of thing and mention something has happened. Having said that, there is always an element of risk. And if someone says they need a laptop, then they need a laptop, and you have to take the risk of giving someone a laptop, right? A lot of people, by the way, won't. A lot of people will actually say, you know what, I've got a laptop. I don't need anything. I'm fine. I've got a phone. I've got a laptop, which is the other thing. And just bear this in mind, and forgive me, by the way, because I want to make sure I go over everything and you get as much value as you possibly can. And obviously I might miss something, and I really, really hope I don't. And if there's anything, by the way, please, if there's anything, please ask me in the comments below, any questions that you might have. But just on that note, get the laptop if they need it, get a mobile phone if they need it. It's not going to cost you that much. It might cost you £200 at most, right? And if it's a risk you have to take, it's a risk you have to take. Usually, I say 75% of the time, you don't need to, because someone will just come with a laptop. Now, If you really, really want, you could be a little bit cheap and just get someone who doesn't need a laptop, because you probably have like 10, 15 people who are ready to do the work and are really, really good. So you can just get someone who doesn't need a laptop if that's what you want to do. But if you really like someone, if you really think someone's good and you need to get them a laptop and that's the deal breaker, I personally would get them the laptop. But obviously maybe I sit in a, I sit in a chair maybe where I can, right? So that's entirely up to you. Now, something I want to cover at the moment is a lot of the times you might want to get someone within customer service, and let's cover actually some of the job roles that can be covered. So some of the roles that you can basically find people abroad, and let's be a little bit specific here. And I know I've just mentioned it briefly, but let's try to be specific, right? So in terms of sales, cold calling, any business that looks for business development people, right? You can definitely find people in the third world countries. I use the service, by the way. I use the service, Corey Solutions. We use the service and we provide recruitment companies, agents in Pakistan where they do business development, they do sales, and they actually find a lot of leads and a lot of companies, and they have a lot of success for a lot of our students. So sales, cold calling, any company that needs an initial cold caller, sales, business development guy, you can provide them. Anyone that needs customer support, right? Customer support and it doesn't have to be customer support in terms of a company just. It could even be customer support in terms of social media website. It could even be, handling a store, a Shopify store. There are so many avenues where people need administrators. Again, people in admin, people in, just doing payroll work, right? People managing inbound calls. When it comes to this stuff, genuinely, if you want some ideas, go on Indeed and just search for jobs. Search for jobs, admin, remote jobs, sales, payroll, finance administrator, a personal assistant, virtual assistants. What are they? They're virtual assistants, right? So you could basically provide a virtual assistant. Now, VAs, PAs, a lot of this stuff, all of it is remote. Now, away from this, guys in marketing, right? Someone in Photoshop, someone in graphic design, someone as an editor, YouTube, shorts, reels, TikTok shorts. This stuff is going crazy. And not only do people want to create content when it comes to shorts and short editing and that sort of stuff, but actually companies are making stuff as well, right? Businesses are making stuff, brands are making stuff. So if you can come in and actually get people from abroad to edit and just say to people, just send us a video, send us a picture, we'll sort it out for you. Great, right? Can you get people to take pictures and you Photoshop them? 100%. On top of that, there are amazing developers in Pakistan, right? Website developers. And I don't say Pakistan just, I say Pakistan, India. So a lot of these third world countries have a lot of talented people. In fact, you'll be surprised to know Pakistan is the second highest freelance provider in the world. In the world, by the way. So, all the admin side, customer service, sales, inbound stuff, all of that stuff, marketing, all of that stuff. In terms of AI development, creating an app, website building, all of this stuff, a lot of the IT stuff can also be outsourced. Any single role that you can think of that can be done remotely, you'll be surprised, can actually be done from the third world countries as well. So this area, it is massive. It is huge. Whatever you're thinking, it's bigger than that, basically. And so hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. Now, something I do obviously want to mention as well is how would you make the calls? This is crucial because how do you can get someone in these third world countries to call with a UK number. Crazy, but it's true. How do you do that? Well, you use a phone service called Voice over Internet IP, Voice over IP. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's a VoIP. VoIP is what I call it. Give it a Google search, whatever sort of thing you need. Now, VoIP phones are very popular in third world countries because call centers exist. A lot of them are bad call centers. A lot of them are good call centers, but they do exist. The point though being is you need to get a VoIP phone. With that VoIP phone, you can get UK numbers, Canada numbers, American numbers, a ton of stuff. And by the way, you guys might be thinking, oh, is that it? There are people making, honestly, 200,000 pounds a month sitting in Pakistan, and they're doing some work for when it comes for trucking, right? In terms of getting delivery drivers sent here and there and handling some of their work, in terms of doing medical billing, right? Because there's a lot of private doctors in America, and so they do medical billing, tons of money. There is tons of opportunity where as long as you can get someone in Pakistan to do the work for someone in the UK, Canada, and America, you're saving them a lot of money, productivity is high, it makes complete sense, guys. Open your mind, open your eyes. I promise you guys there's huge potential, and hopefully this video is giving you a benefit. Still haven't liked this video, I'm gonna start getting upset because I'm getting tired and I'm trying to give you as much value as I can. But I do want to start talking about the sales side, right? So you need a VoIP over IP address, check that. Usually in terms of the cost, by the way, you're probably looking at, well, it depends actually, which country you're in and that sort of thing. I think I pay about £150 a month for about every 10 agents. Every 10 agents, I think we pay about £150, £200. It also depends on how many calls you do. It depends on a lot of things and where you call and which country you're in. Rates vary a lot, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot. Like for one agent, you're probably not going to need to spend more than 30, 40 quid maximum. So hopefully that gives you an idea. Now I want to get into the sales side, the objection, the negotiating. The client said this, how shall I reply? The client said she doesn't want us. Well, what should you say? The client said it's too much. The client said, well, what if it doesn't work? All of that. That's exactly what I'm going to go. This is going to be really juicy stuff. Not only is it going to help you with this business, but many other businesses. So trust me, take notes, and go back and watch it again because it is going to help you. Now it's the next day because, well, we got a little bit delayed. And so I'm back because this, I wanted to be a little bit fresh for. The sales part, the objections part, and where companies would have an issue when doing business with you. Well, there are a couple. Obviously, a company will start thinking, oh, are you looking after these people? Are you, paying them the right amount that they should be paid? And I actually think this is where documenting on LinkedIn, even a little bit on social media if you can, is actually very powerful. Because if your companies can see the clients that you're speaking to or trying to get in touch with, if they can see, the environment that you have, an office, if you have that office, if they can see that side, then they obviously will be much more on board with doing business with you. Now, it is something that companies are going to think of. So how do you address it? Well, when a company says something like, look, I just want to understand, are they getting paid adequately or that sort of thing? Sometimes they might not even say it. Sometimes they might not, and you might need to address the problem before it's even come up. So you would say something like, I know that sometimes people are taken advantage of in some countries, though what we do is pay double the average salary in the country. And obviously that means that not only are they able to look after their families, but in comparison to a lot of the people earning set amounts, they're making a decent amount, they're making a decent living. It's a point you have to address. It is something you have to address because it's a problem and an objection that people will have in their minds. Now, if I'm being completely honest with you, and this is me speaking to you, and you can address this problem the way you want, but if you're now living in Pakistan, if you're living in India, Bangladesh, the cost of living is nothing compared to what it is in the UK. Much, much, much lower. And so obviously then, you can live on a smaller amount of money. And that I think is the most important thing. So I think it's very crucial for you guys to understand that it's fine to pay someone £300-400 a month. If that £300-400 a month, bearing in mind, gives them the same sort of lifestyle as someone making £2,000 a month in the Western countries. And that is actually the reality. In fact, I would say £300 to £400 a month probably is the equivalent of someone making £2,500 in the UK, relatively when you look at cost of living. So it's something you're probably going to want to address in an email or on the phone to them. Another issue a company might have is, well, how do we pay you, or how do we do the payroll side? And that is exactly where you will talk about the Stripe side. That's exactly where you will talk in terms of, I will send you a link and it will be a reoccurring payment, or I will send you a one-off invoice, and that will be the odd occasion where when someone has done the work, I will send you an invoice. Where are you registered? Where are you carrying, where are your laws and your regulations and that sort of thing? And it's important to let them know we're a UK based or a US based, or wherever you're based, by the way, we're a company based in the country, and so obviously we have to adhere to
certain laws and regulations, and so you are in safe hands. We wouldn't ever do something which will put your company at risk, because remember, for that company, if they're doing work with you, they might be putting themselves at risk, and obviously no one wants to put their company in risk, especially when you're dealing with HR managers, project managers, production managers, and so on and so forth. Which leads me on to the other thing. Who do you need to speak to? This is, I would say, a little bit of a subjective question, but when it comes to the person you need to speak to within that company, it would be HR, project manager, production manager, a director, a VP. Have a look at senior management, ask the question, and they will probably direct you to the right person. As long as you pick up the phone and ask them, they will direct you to who you need to speak to, but it's a case of actually picking up the phone and asking the question. As well as doing the emails and the LinkedIn side, pick up the phone. How do you make a list? There are plenty of websites online. Apollo is one of them where you can make a list. LinkedIn, Sales Navigator is another one where you can make a list. Make a list of companies you can reach and speak to. Again, personally, I would speak to companies locally to me because it's much easier getting business from the companies that are local to you. So build a list of companies and start emailing them, sending them messages on LinkedIn and giving them a call, mentioning exactly how you can provide a service for a super cheap price, and then obviously have someone working in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, or wherever you want them to be. Now, in the beginning, I mentioned a couple of points, which were why would a company even want to use us? And these points are very relevant right now. When we're doing sales and when we're trying to convince a client to work with us, remember that client should feel like this is the only option. That is how the client should feel. Like, it obviously makes sense. Bearing in mind, it is cheaper, productivity levels will be higher. You would factor in the fact that even if someone is sick, the work still needs to get done. And so it makes complete sense for that company. Bearing in mind, they are also taking away their liability of an employee to someone else. And, sometimes things can go wrong, right? An employee can sue a company. There are other costs when there are employees. And this is something to factor in as well. It's important for you to know so that when you are speaking to companies, you know your exact costs, right? So, obviously, if you're paying someone £26,000 a year, you will have that £26,000 a year that you need to pay, right? So the 25 divided by 12 months, let's just say it's, £1,000 or £2,000 a month. So obviously you're going to pay the just over £2,000 a month, but you would also, as a company, pay employers' national insurance, which is you have to work it out, and you can work it out many websites on there, but it's a rough percentage, near about 12 to 13%, roughly. The exact numbers, go online, national insurance, employers' national insurance calculator or something, and you will exactly find how much you would need to pay. So now imagine you're paying £25,000 to an employee. Actually, you're paying £28,000 to that employee, and your employee is probably going to cost the £2,500 or £3,000, right? And so it makes complete sense because you are reducing the cost for that company by a considerable amount. I would pick up the phone and just say something along the lines of, hey, I'm wondering who I can speak to. I know you sometimes use admin, customer service, office people, whatever that job title is that you're trying to help find in another country. I've got people in another country who actually get that work done at a fraction of the price. When we're saying fraction, I'm talking about 25%. Who could I speak to in regards to seeing if whether you can outsource some of the work to another country? Who would be the right person that I need to speak to in regards to that? Right? When you speak to the receptionist or someone, whoever takes a call, along those lines, it's a good start, and that's how I would start making the calls. So you get some emails, you get a contact number, they maybe put you through. Let's say they do put you through. I would say something along the lines of, look, let's say her name is Becky. Becky, I appreciate, by the way, it's very important to take the person's name, very important. When you take the person's name, it becomes personable and they're more willing to have a conversation with you. I would say something along the lines of, hey, Becky, we have people that we work with in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, wherever. We carry out customer service, sales, office, admin, those sort of roles where we know that they can be offset to people in Pakistan because actually their work ethic is really good. They're really qualified, they're really well educated. And I know it's something you sometimes use and look for. Is there a need for anyone right now? By the way, someone to you would cost about £2,000, and our services, they actually cost about £700 to £750. How could I discuss that, and who would I need to speak to in regards to that? Go along them lines, and you'll be surprised how many companies would be interested. You're reducing their cost, by the way, by 70-80%, right? That's how much you're reducing their cost by. So obviously they're going to have a conversation with you. At that point, I think it's important to mention, give them some examples. If you have some examples, by the way, set up an interview with your person if that is the last resort, by the way. But I would also go down the lines of trying a trial period of a month, see how you get on with customers. You need to train that person, and bearing in mind, try to get that 3-month sign up. If you get them to sign up for 3 months, and why would they sign up for 3 months? Remember, it's because the first month is going to go into training, and it's not fair to judge someone over the first month. You actually want to give them at least 3 months so you know whether they're going to be good or not. Now, there are other things like a company asking you the question, well, is this something you've done before? And that sort of thing. Look, I would go down the lines of, Becky, again, whatever her name is, make sure you say her names because it's personable. I would say something along the lines of, look, Becky, it's very obvious that we're moving towards a direction where a lot of people are working from home. And if people could work from home, actually they can work from anywhere in the world. I do have these people who could carry the work out to a very similar level to those in the UK, Canada, America, wherever you are. And so that is why I believe that actually we should try to see if we can offset some of the costs. It's working for many companies, in the West. And it's something that I know is going to be growing a lot in the upcoming months. And so, I think it makes sense. It saves a lot of money. Even if the person's unwell, the work still gets done. You're safeguarded because actually you don't have the risk of having an employee, and therefore you're not liable. And also, it's not just the employee cost. Actually, you're also paying employers' national insurance on top of that. So we're cutting all costs and providing someone for you. Bearing in mind, guys, it just makes complete sense. Like, you don't actually have to sell something that much when it makes complete sense. And the things I mentioned in the beginning of this video, why this works, are things that exactly you would reiterate right now. When it comes to negotiating, I want to mention this now. And by the way, let me tell you this. I have been in the sales industry for about 11 years now. Well, it is 11 years. I've been doing recruitment for 11 years. So I've started my own recruitment company. I've won clients. I've spoken to multi-billion-pound companies. I know sales very, very well. And I have my own sales course for 5 hours where we teach how to, do sales, get past the receptionist, gatekeeper, so much, deal with closing, how to negotiate. 5 hours of content purely about sales, and it's on the Teach You platform. You can sign up for £1.99 for the first month, and it's £23.99 a month after that. It's tons of value. And if you don't find value, send me a message on Instagram. Really and truly, if £1.99, it's not worth £1.99, send me a message and I'll refund you, because I know there's tons of value in the platform Teach You. But when it comes to negotiating, when you're negotiating, it's very important that you, in an ideal situation, what would be good and a good route to take, and there's a couple of things you could do here. You can tell them your service and then ask them the question. Let me ask you a question. What sort of money would you pay for someone to carry this work out abroad, right? Get that question in. Because when you get that question in, you will have a rough idea of how much this customer or this client is willing to pay. That is one route you could take. So say, for example, they say £700-800. You could say, actually, you're just about right, because we do charge £800, and you can have someone working, for you as fast as next week, Monday, to be fair. Remember, time does kill all deals. And so the quicker you get something like this done, the better it will be for you. Now, you could also go down the line of you saying the money first and saying something like, we make sure that the person is very well educated and looked after. We make sure that the work is getting done and the productivity level is high. We also make sure that the liability is taken away from you, and we provide all those services at 30% of the cost that is costing you right now. And therefore, the cost of this would be £800, saving you at least £1,500 to £1,600 per employee. It's very important to mention it like that. And I'll tell you why. Because when you say it's going to cost £800, you also want to mention how much you're going to save. And mention the numbers very specifically. Because if you just say it's going to cost £800, it's like, oh, okay, still not that far off. But if you say it's going to save you £1,500 per employee, all of a sudden that sounds like a good deal, right? So make sure you mention that. Now, they might want to say, look, can you do it for cheaper? Can you do it for less? And that's something that you're going to have to play by the ear, because if they're taking on 4 or 5 people for example, and you're charging £800, but actually for this one employee, you can charge £700, and therefore get 5 people to, start, then it's fine, actually, to be fair. Having said that, if someone said to me, well, your price here is £800, can you do it for £700? I would say something like, look, it's very important for me to make sure you get the best person. It's very important for me to keep the productivity level high. And it's very important for me to make sure that I'm looking after this person and I'm not underpaying them. And so £800 is an extremely, extremely good price, especially factoring in that you're saving £1,500, let's be honest. But having said that, from £800, I'm going to reduce it to £775, and that does go into my margin, but I'm willing to do that so we can get business rolling with yourselves. Now, I know when I said that, you guys were like, fair enough. That sounds really good. And you're right. That's exactly what you need to say. So rewind this, go over it, write notes, and practice exactly what I've said. These things are super, super crucial and important. And it's important for you to understand sales. Now, I can't teach you sales in 15, 20 minutes, but I can give you some tips. And so remember, make as many calls as you possibly can. Practice makes perfect. Pick up the phone, deal with objections, but your value that you're providing is so high that the service sells itself. Now, I hope this video has been of benefit. Share with your family or friends, subscribe to the channel, and trust me when I say there is more of this valuable content that's going to be coming on the channel. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.